Hey guys, first of all, before I start, I'd like to ask you to do me a small favor, and that's like the video, ring the bell for notifications, subscribe to the channel, and share the video. Also guys, if you would like to, it would help me out tremendously. Go into the description and click on the links there to find my content elsewhere. You can find me at other video outlets like Dailymotion, Rumble.com, Odyssey, and VENMO. You can also find me at all your favorite audio and video podcast affiliates like iTunes, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Spotify, Audible, Amazon Music, Radio Public, and to an extent Sirius XM. I also have a Patreon that's going to be up and running very, very soon. Get ready for that. Basically finalizing what the first things will be, and I think you'll enjoy them. So support me over at Patreon if you like. I also have a Cash App and a Venmo. If you want to help out there, that'd be greatly appreciated as well. I'm also on DeviantArt.com at BVW1979 and InkBunny, that's INKBUNNY.net at BW Rosas. And also, ladies and gentlemen, I have a couple of stores, online stores. I have a Fourth Wall store. You can find that. Link is in the description at the top. And I have a Teespring store. Link is at the bottom for that. Also, guys, during this live stream, or not live stream, but this video premiere, this live video premiere, I should say, you can support me with SuperChats during the live chat, because the live chat will be open. You can chime in there, give your thoughts there if you would like. As well as the comment section will be open during the video premiere and afterwards. And if you don't get here in time to do a donation, if you want to do that in the Super Chats, you can still do so with Super Thanks. Also, the affiliated programs will have items listed. You can check those out for yourself or for anybody you're looking for gifts this year during Christmas. Also, you can follow me at social media at Twitter, aka x.com. You can also follow me at Blue Sky and TikTok. But, with that said, let's talk about something, actually kind of interesting. A lot of people are saying that on all ends of the spectrum, that wrestling, especially when it comes to the major two here in North America, that wrestling has kind of been on a downward spiral. That 2025 is probably the most, I guess you could say, most uneventful year for wrestling. Now, has it been all bad? No. Both AEW and WWE have turned out a lot of good, matches. And sometimes the storylines have been, turned out to be, or the storylines they've been churning out, I should say, have been, actually pretty good. But what's going on? What's the issue? What's happening? Well, I think what's happening is the fact that, well, basically, some people will say when it comes to WWE, the ticket prices are too much. They're too expensive. But now, they're starting to die down. That it seems the ticket prices are actually going down. Like maybe TKO is listening and are realizing, oh, we shouldn't be charging this much for WWE tickets because, oh, by the way, WWE's not UFC. And I think that's where the confusion comes in. The reason they're charging so high is because they're confusing the fact that UFC is similar to WWE and it's not. And hopefully somebody's talked to them and said, yeah, that's not the case here. You need to stop charging UFC boxing prices. So that might be why the change has suddenly happened. But outside of that, it's not just the prices that kind of hurt people financially. I mean, people would go and do payment plans, which is a good direction to go in. But it's not just that. It's the fact that when people look at WWE and AEW and some other promotions by extension, it's like to them, one is doing too much of one thing, and the other is doing too less of one thing and not more of it. For example, when they say AEW is too much of a gore fest at times, like almost every week or every other week, even leading up to a pay-per-view, a PLE, if you will, that basically AEW is too reliant on the gore fest of blood. Of the violence, of the weaponry, the hardcore, the indie mud show, as some people call it, the backyardness, you name it. To them, it seems they're too reliant on that. And that what it does is it basically dilutes, that same stuff you get on the pay-per-view. A recent example, according to certain individuals, here online, is that we got some blood, probably more blood than expected at Full Gear. We got it almost constantly in every match. Well, I wouldn't say every match, but a majority of the matches you would see blood. You saw blood with Moxley and Kyle O'Reilly. You saw blood with Samoa Joe and Hangman Page. And who else did we have blood in? I think they said we went back-to-back on 2 matches, right? Back-to-back? Well, basically they said one match, Briscoe, Mark Briscoe and Kyle Fletcher. And they were back-to-back with Moxley and O'Reilly. And it was like, you got a lot of blood there, and then you got blood there, and then you got blood in the cage match. And what's interesting is certain people are like, what AEW is doing is diluting, the importance of blood, the importance of the violence that's needed. Because, it wasn't that long ago, barely even 2 weeks, 2 weeks prior, or a week prior, whatever the case was, that we had buckets, bathtubs full, jacuzzis full of blood just spewing out of every individual competing in both the men's and the women's blood and guts. I mean, if you want a good example of buckets, if not jacuzzis, bathtub, hot tub filled amounts of blood being spilled, look no further than Miss Sky Blue, in the women's match. The point is, AEW is doing way too much blood and not, pulling back and saying, let's hold that until a certain occasion. Let's take a break from it and wait until a certain occasion calls for it. A certain storyline or a certain match type. Because basically it seems they become too reliant on it. It's like Tony Khan is afraid if you don't have blood in your match, no one's going to care. It's not going to get people talking. So they're doing too much of it, and WWE is not doing as much. WWE is more story-based. And sometimes that's a good thing, and sometimes that's a bad thing. Because some people look at the fact that you're doing too much story and not enough wrestling. Or you're playing it too safe by doing this and that, and not, taking a risk here and there. And I think there is a middle ground when it comes to both sides. That middle ground is the fact that they have to go half and half, both companies. That's what they need to do. They need to go 50-50 in playing it safe, if you will, and also getting violent when the time is right. Having the usage of blood when the time is right. But they're not doing that. It's like one's doing less, playing it safe in WWE, and one's doing too much. And there's not that middle ground for both. That middle ground needs to be there. And I think that's why when you think about it, wrestling has not been, where it should be when it comes to these two major promotions. I mean, heck, you want to know a promotion that actually has a middle ground? It's the promotion WWE is partnered with. Yeah, it's the promotion WWE is partnered with, and that's TNA. They have a freaking middle ground. I mean, yeah, did the match earlier this year during WrestleMania weekend between Callahan and Warner, did that kind of have them dial it back a little bit on the violence? Absolutely. Yeah, it did. Absolutely had them dial it back. But not too much, because guess what happened at Bound for Glory? Guess what happened there? In the hardcore war between the System and Order 4. What happened? Hardcore. Was there blood? A little bit. Not as much as what we saw in that barbed wire massacre between Warner and Callahan, but it was there. And they've also had blood spilled throughout the year in different other kind of matches. But guess what? TNA has found the middle ground. They found that middle ground, but where they will allow it to happen, but they're saving it for certain matches, in culminations of storylines. Believe it or not, MLW is doing the same thing. They're saving, their violence at times for, certain big events, whether regular shows or more about building towards it and not, trying to overboard themselves. They're not trying to overboard themselves one way or another. So those two companies have found the middle ground. AAA, which is 51% owned by WWE now. They're still, acting like their own entity. Guess what? They can do violence, but they found a middle ground. That middle ground is basically saving it when the time is right. I mean, you got the freaking the Psycho Clown Circus going up against the Wyatt Six in what is being considered a Carnage God's War or something like that at the next event, this month. So it's just one of those situations where it's like the two major outlets here in North America, if not worldwide, haven't found that middle ground. Well, those, associated with them, in a full-on partnership like TNA, owned by them by at least, 1% more over 50, and then one that may be an occasional partner once in a while, with AEW, and that's MLW, that they found the middle ground. They have found that middle ground in everything that, that is needed. And that's why, believe it or not, some people actually talk more about them and praise them more so than anything. Because they see they found that middle ground. I mean, yeah, are there fans that are going to enjoy, they're going to love, the violence, when it's given more so than it should be? Absolutely. That's why AEW's fans are nicknamed sickos. Because they love violence. They love the nonsensical graphic violence. They love it. This is why they're called sickos, because they love it. But the thing is, there's sometimes, there's an old saying that, less is better. Less is better and everything. But also, there's that saying, if you find a middle ground, to find that balance, you're good to go both ways. The point is, when you look, at 2025, I think what it is it's a year where both companies are trying to find their identity. Once again, they're trying to find this new identity. They're trying to find their identity so they can start anew. They can start, a new era in their companies for the talent that's under their regime. They're trying to find that balance. They're trying to find that, that reset button, so that so that way going into next year, they have all the cards on the table and they have the blueprints, open and ready to see what direction they need to go in to build for that year, to build the company and the roster that they're going to have for that year. That's what it seems like they're trying to do. They're trying to find that one key point. That one key point that's going to get us to certain stopping points, in 2026 for the companies. I mean, whether you like it or not, Liv Morgan being back with the Judgment Day is a good thing. It's a good thing because not only does it give, Dominic a heat magnet, if you will, but you go back to what made the Judgment Day a little bit interesting before she got injured. And that is the dissension with her and Finn. Because we already see it, we kind of see it already that Finn is not thrilled that she's back, and that basically she's trying to take charge. And what's interesting though, is if you were to compare the two as leader, or at least involuntary leaders of the Judgment Day, despite Finn having experience as leader of the Bullet Club and the Balor Club and all that, guess what? The one that people would go with and believe more so as a leader that gets crap done would be Liv. They'd go with Liv Morgan, as basically the one that gets crap done to make sure that nothing falls apart. But her being back, though, not only is a good thing for the Judgment Day, because you can go back and revisit that story, but it sets things up for WrestleMania. Bearing, God forbid, bearing anything happens. Because the way it sets things up for WrestleMania is obviously you're going to build towards her and Roxanne. Now, some might say, well, Roxanne's already eyeing Maxine's, Intercontinental Championship. That's true. But the way, the show ended last night, Liv is basically telling Roxanne no. Because Roxanne was going to give her the tag title, say, you and Raquel. And Liv's like, no, it's you and Raquel, because she has her eyes set on Valkyrie. She has her eyes set on Valkyrie and the Women's World title. So to me, you pretty much have the groundwork lined up for dissension in the Judgment Day, because when that moment comes and Liv takes on Stephanie for the Women's World title and loses, it's not going to be a straight up loss she's going to take. No, it's going to be because of Roxanne. Finn's going to convince Roxanne to go and quote unquote help, Liv win that championship. In reality, it's all going to be part of a plan by Finn and Roxanne by extension to basically screw Liv out of being champion again, so that in Finn's mind, Liv will learn her place in the Judgment Day. Or at least it'll be the first step he needs to get her out. So it's good. So basically, Liv being back, and we see these interactions and everything throughout last night, it does set the table for the Judgment Day in 2026, and them basically breaking apart, because you can see that's coming. And the biggest catalyst of that will be the Royal Rumble. Imagine this. You got the Royal Rumble. You got Finn, Dom, and JD in the Rumble match for the men. And then in the women, you have Liv, you have Roxanne, you have Raquel. What do you think is going to happen in both matches? Huh? What do you think is going to happen? Roxanne is going to try to eliminate Liv. Well, Finn is going to try to eliminate Dom even after, because I think we all see it coming, they make a pact of, hey, we'll watch each other, and when the time is right, we'll decide how things go between the three of us. But we know that's all going to be falling apart, because Finn will be out for himself. Well, Roxanne will be out for herself on behalf of Finn, as well, to basically not only eliminate Roxanne but Liv Morgan from the match, but Dom as well, to basically send a message of, hey, we run the Judgment Day, not you. We're the leaders, not you. So the signs are there. The little hints and moments are there, and it's going to be interesting to see how they get there, within the next few months. Because again, the seeds are planted. And if they follow through on it, it's all going to work out in the end. Well, you're going to have, basically, get this, a mixed tag team title match at WrestleMania with Finn and Roxanne against Dom and Liv. And if they go down the path, either way for the women, and either Liv or Roxanne gets that Intercontinental Championship, you're looking at a mixed tag team Intercontinental Championship match for both the men and the women, as well as for the future of the Judgment Day. That's what I feel they're going to be heading towards, if things align correctly, the way I think. But this goes back to, like I said, the WWE, kind of trying to find their identity for 2026, and this is part of that. Believe it or not, this is part of finding that identity. This is part of finding that identity by setting the pieces out there, for us to, look at and put together, as well as the blueprint that's being finalized, so that they can follow that blueprint into next year. Now, as far as AEW goes, they have all the potential. They need to hold back on the violent stuff, is what they need to do. But they have all the potential to become probably become what they were back in 2019 and 2020. They have that potential. But the problem is they need to find that, they need to find that identity again. And they have all the groundwork, basically, in my opinion, set up. You have Okada and Takeshita getting ready to blow up at each other, potentially in the Continental Classic, as well as basically one's going to go off and be a babyface, more than likely Takeshita, maybe, or Okada, maybe, we don't know, but you have the groundwork there for something that can cause, the first ripple and dissension and disintegration of the Don Callis family. You have that, so that's perfect. You got that lined up. You have, Mercedes. You actually have a story going on with Mercedes. Where basically she can win all these belts. She can hold on to the TBS championship for as long as she wants, but she can't win the big one. And that's a story you can build into 2026 with. In fact, you can even end it with that story in 2025 to where she wants that title, but she can say, you know what? If I don't win it, I'm vacating all these belts, including the TBS title, and I'll leave AEW. You could do that. And that would actually make things interesting from a story perspective. And by doing so, you can actually give the belt to her, and you can use 2026 as that year in story of, okay, she's got all these belts, she's conquered everything, who's going to stop her? And there you go. Whether people want to agree with that or not, it would work. It would work. The thing is, they have these, they have all these little, little golden nuggets, if you will, that they can, line up organizedly, as well, to basically plan out what they're going to do for 2026, and use these golden nuggets to put that blueprint together so they can follow it in the direction they need to go in. I mean, Samoa Joe being champion, that's great and everything, but we all know that championship's heading back to MJF. We know it. We know it's heading to him probably by the end of this year. We know that, and then you can build to that as to who's going to get the belt off him. And he actually, believe it or not, actually, just like Joe, you give him the right opponent and the right story, you're set. You're set and made. You're set and made. In my opinion. So anything for AEW is possible. They just got to get those certain golden nuggets, basically line them up and organize them, and then basically use them to create that blueprint they need to follow in the right direction for next year to get back to where they once were. Because once they do that, they'll be good. They will be good, to go. Nobody will be criticizing them as much as they've been doing this year, if not the past year. And in actuality, all they have to really do is look at TNA, look at MLW, look at AAA, look at CMLL, and see that they found those middle grounds that people are talking about, that I've talked about, and follow them, or use those as examples to basically go, create that blueprint, find those golden nuggets, basically, use, the seeds that you planted for certain storylines going into next year, put that all together, and you'll be good to go. You'll be good to go. So, for 2025, though, again, has it been an off year? Yeah. But let's not also forget, 1995, 30 years ago, was an off year. And then starting in 96, things started to kind of gradually, very slowly pick back up. But 95 was, 30 years ago was a bad year for all of wrestling. So was 2005. Ruthless aggression, yeah, you had ruthless aggression, some violence and all that. You had good wrestling, don't get me wrong, but it was also kind of a downward at times. Let's not deny that. And in 2015, say no more, same thing. It's almost like anytime we hit the fives in a decade, that seems to be the year things go downward. I mean, you would think this being the actual, legitimate, 40th anniversary of WrestleMania, not last year, but this year, actual legitimate anniversary, you'd think they would try to build up and make, they try to build up and make the product better in tribute to that, but it's not. It's not. It's always lackluster, but it always seems like the following year they build back up. They build back up, if you will, for at least another few years before they fall down again. So who's to say, like with 95 and 2005 and 2015, that this isn't just, a down year, because it seems every time we hit the fives in a decade, that happens. Who's to say that this, this being a down year isn't going to, just be just be something that, just happens every every decade, and then lo and behold, the following year things get better. Who's to say, it's not one of those situations. I'm just saying. But anyway, I just wanted to come on here and just give my thoughts on it. Kind of, just shoot the breeze, if you will, give my opinions and everything as to why I think this year has not been so good, at least for the two major companies in WWE and WWE and AEW. But let me know what your thoughts are, guys. I'd love to hear how you feel about it. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What do you think they need to do going into next year? Do you agree with some of the ideas that I feel that they could follow, or they, could utilize, especially with some of the, storylines and, seeds for storylines and everything they planted and all that? Let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below in the comments if you haven't already in the live chat. And until next time, guys, like I said at the beginning, like the video, ring the bell for notifications, subscribe to the channel, and share the video. Also, click on the links in the description to support me elsewhere outside of YouTube and to find my content outside of YouTube as well. And also, guys, the super thanks will be open if you didn't get in to do super chats, as well as the affiliated programs will be opened as well to purchase stuff there as well. But guys, give me your thoughts. Love to hear what you have to say on this. And until next time, I am out. God bless. Take care.